Hey, welcome to Spotlight. I'm your host, Erica Thomas. Today we're talking to the crew from the new film Armored.
Hi, Erica. How you doing?
Hey, I want to jump right in and start talking about not only the roles you played in the film, but also about how you kind of got started on the film from a career perspective. So the film is really about six guys who are kind of in this they have a close, intimate relationship in close quarters and they're working together. And I'm curious about how that relationship played off the screen. And
I read the script and I fell in love with it. It's not the big action CG. It was just grounded in a reality, and it was intense, and it had me on the edge of my seat. And I really, it was a role that would put me out in front of a movie that was quality, and I wanted to be a part of it, with not knowing who was going to be attached to it at that point.
Yeah, I was curious about that. Did you have any kind of idea who you'd be working with beforehand? Because it seems like the role of the relationship is so important in this film.
Yeah, there were names floating around, but I didn't care who they got. I wanted to be a part of it, and it was just it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to find out who they ended up hiring. So it was great.
Now, Columbus plays the part of this kind of like young protege Ty, and Columbus, you put in a lot of work to even get the role in the first place, and so we have some upcoming actors that watch the show that are maybe curious how to get on board with a project like this. Tell me about what you did to make sure you nailed the role, because wanting it is one thing and actually getting it is another thing.
Wanting it and then nailing it. There's a process. I mean, I don't think if I was like had no experience carrying a movie, a la Stomp the Yard, I don't think they would have been as comfortable giving me the role. But
right.
My relationship with the studio, and it was important for me to go after what I wanted and tell them this is the movie I want, give me the shot. And they had a list of guys that they wanted ahead of me, but I really did what I had to do, take the director to dinner and let him know my take on the character and my take on how I feel I can elevate this project. So it was kind of a little campaign-y, if you will.
Yeah, so you put in some work beforehand and did some research beforehand about who you'd have to play.
Yeah.
And also you mentioned, I was reading that you mentioned because you're working with so many other veteran actors on the film that you got a lot of pearls of wisdom.
If I tell you those pearls, I'm going to have to kill you. No, I'm just saying. No, a lot of it wasn't like, hey kid, you should do this, and I'm going to give you some advice. It was more, it was very fireside chatty. These guys were just talking about what it was like coming up in the game and pitfalls, and just through their stories you hear, through mistakes they made or things they wish they would have done differently, and you kind of take those notes to yourself and try to practically apply it into your career and life.
Can you give us maybe just one example for an upcoming actor?
I did this movie before I did Stomp the Yard, and Fish Lawrence told me that, before I did Cadillac Records, I'm sorry, and he really told me to just go delve in and do the work, and when I didn't quite understand what he meant when he said it, because I felt like I always dove in and did the work. But he said there's always another layer where you can take it to where you become a master, where you become a master of your craft. And from that I decided to get a dialect coach, it was his dialect coach actually, and she worked with me to prepare for that role. And he bought me a harmonica and a harmonica chart where I wasn't going to be imitating playing the harmonica, that I was actually going to be playing the harmonica. That's how you take your craft to the next level, when you actually toil and do the work to become who you're playing. So that was a big jewel.
That's awesome. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you guys so much. The film is Armored. I know that you put in the work and it absolutely shows on screen. So good luck with everything, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. We're going to continue with Matt Dillon to talk a little bit more about the film Armored and some of his career advice.